guys, and welcome back to the United District YouTube channel. And it's the January transfer window. We gave you a bit of a lowdown on what United are expecting to do over the next month. Of course, there's been updates. There's updates every day. It now looks like Jadon Sancho's heading off to Borussia Dortmund on loan. But there's still some important updates, especially to do with the youth players and potential loan deals for them in the video. So check that out if you haven't already. But in this one, we're going to be reminiscing because we're not expecting many incomings in this upcoming window, and they're unlikely to be big names or long-term transfers under Ineos. So instead, we're going to look at some of those transfers across recent years who have hit the nail on the head. And there's 6 of them in this video. We're going to go through them real quick. Now, to kick things off, who better than Bruno Fernandez? United's most recent big success in the January market, where in 2020 United bought him from Sporting Lisbon for £46 million. And now you look back and it was a great deal. Now, Bruno Fernandez has played 211 games for United. That just shows that he hasn't stopped since joining the club 4 years ago. And the numbers to go with that aren't too bad either. 69 goals and 59 assists is a brilliant tally for the Portuguese midfielder, who really just kick-started his career straight away at United. And that's one thing that not all of the signings, especially 2 in particular in this list, done. He just came in and took to it easily. And to think that he was coming from the Portuguese league straight into the Premier League mid-season, a poor Manchester United side, and he made it look pretty easy when he first came back. So that's Bruno Fernandez, and of course he's a player, one of few who do this. There's this side and there's this side. There's not many people there. People love him and a lot of people hate him. Somewhere in between, he probably is a little bit closer to that side, but people deal in extremes, especially these days. So Bruno's got some strengths, amazing strengths, and he has got some weaknesses that people need to address and admit to. But with the situation he came into at United and being such a key player for a fair few number of years now, I think it's safe to say that he has been one of United's more successful January transfers. I'm moving a few years back, and of course the classiest man in football deserved the classiest arrival to United. And who better than Juan Mata to get a helicopter on his way to Manchester? It was brilliant. Not many could have pulled it off, but Mata did, and he was a sublime player, especially when United bought him. David Moyes got him in the January transfer market in 2014, midway through his only season at United, and it was a difficult season at the time. United were adjusting to being without Sir Alex Ferguson, and they were looking to the Premier League's, one of the Premier League's greatest players at that period in time. United snatched Mata from Chelsea for around £37 million, which was a club record at the time. And Mata would go on to play for the Reds for almost a decade. He would play 285 games for the club, and he would manage 51 goals and 47 assists, which is not a bad return at all. Now listen, I think with Mata, the only thing is, it could have been better with him. He joined United at a time where he was flying high for Chelsea, and he spent some really good years at United in his prime, and then he slowly drifted off. But during those opening years, United could have gave him a lot more if they were a more well-gelled side. I kind of make the comparison with David Silva at Manchester City. Now, you can argue quality-wise he might have been better than Mata, but I think it's closer than people give it credit for. But Silva was in a Pep Guardiola system, learning under Pep in his prime years, playing in a brilliant system, and it all worked out for him, and he's now known as one of the best Premier League midfielders, probably of all time. Mata, meanwhile, was in a dysfunctional United side, moved off to the right wing, not playing central enough, and it kind of just leaves you with what could have been with Mata, and that's unfortunate. But nonetheless, Mata was a brilliant signing for United for the amount of years he gave the club, the work, that goal at Anfield, and almost being one of the few United players that almost everyone loves. Now we're going to be taking it back all the way to 1995, before I was here, before probably a few of you were here. when Andy Cole made the move from Newcastle to Manchester United for a British record fee of 6 million plus Keith Gillespie in the deal. So that was a big deal. I mean, it doesn't seem like a lot of money now, but back then, especially going from Newcastle, who at the time were competing for the Premier League, not quite getting there, but they were in and about that conversation, and Cole made the move to United in a massive, massive move. And you just read off some of the stats, and it's 275 games for United, 121 goals for Manchester United, and 45 assists for Manchester United. Now, that is impressive, but what's more impressive is that he did not take a single penalty for the club during his time there. Now, to get that kind of goal scoring record without taking penalties is very impressive. And of course, when you look at his standings in the overall Premier League goal scoring ranks, it's just ridiculous to think that I think he might have took 1 or 2 penalties over his career, but he was not a penalty taker. And Cole brought United fans a lot of happiness. Now, I think there's 2 things to think of when you think of Andy Cole at Manchester United. For many of us who maybe only watched clips, highlights, and a few games back online, but you think of the treble season, 24 goals, 7 assists for Cole in that year. But certain things just last over the course of many years, and I think his partnership with Dwight Yorke, made together at Manchester United, did exactly that. I mean, you think of Omri and Bergkamp, Rooney and Ronaldo, Sutton and Shearer. These are iconic Premier League strike partnerships, and I think Yorke and Cole might be the most iconic. Maybe Omri and Bergkamp can rival that. Of course, Rooney and Ronaldo, amazing, but they're definitely up there. And of course, there's that famous Champions League goal. We see it every year where they're just on the same wavelength, them two, and I think those sort of things are so memorable as a football fan. And of course, Cole gave United fans so much more than that. And coming up after Cole is another striker signed from another Premier League club. It's Louis Saha in the January transfer window in 2004, where he made the move to United from Fulham. Now, this move was a few years in the making. Sir Alex Ferguson actually broke one of his self-imposed transfer rules when he took to his United squad and asked them about Louis Saha after he terrorised them in an FA Cup clash in 2001. At the time, he was at Fulham in the Championship and flying high. They won the league with over 100 points, and Saha scored over 30 goals. It was an incredible season, and it got the player on Fergie's radar. And now he didn't come in the following summer or the one after that, but Fergie eventually got his man in that January in 2004. Saha played 124 games for United, scoring 42 goals and getting 17 assists. And it's a respectable outlay, but you do think that those injuries which he did sustain during his career kind of impacted his overall impact at United, but he still gave United some good memories. And we were talking about strike partnerships. Saha built a brilliant one with Wayne Rooney in a couple of years during his time at Old Trafford, and people will remember that, and that's what fans love. Now, the last 2 players come 2 years after Saha, and it only feels right to kind of speak about them together, considering they both came in a 2006 January transfer window. Patrice Evra from Monaco for 5.5 million, and Nemanja Vidic from Spartak Moscow for £7 million. It was ridiculous business. It sounds like ridiculous business now, but it was still ridiculous business back then. Of course, Evra had success in Europe, getting to a Champions League final with Monaco, doing really well out in France, and he made the move early on in his career. Same with Vidic. But these 2 players were relatively unknown. Not many United fans would have heard about Vidic, I imagine, and Evra was unproven on the biggest stage. They both smashed it at United, but it wasn't so obvious as soon as they came. I mean, Evra has previously spoken about his difficult start at Old Trafford. He made his debut against Manchester City, and United lost 3-1. Evra started the game, got replaced at half-time. It was a really difficult start at life to United for him, as it was for Vidic, but the 2 players grinded out through the scrutiny, which would have, of course, been higher if they were to be playing today. But then they didn't stop. They didn't look back. They didn't stop. They became 2 out of the 4 of probably United's most iconic back 4 of all time. Vidic would play 300 games for the club, scoring 21 goals as well, which is a pretty good return for a central defender. And he was the exact kind of defender that United fans and probably football fans just resonate with. I mean, we're seeing it with Lisandro Martinez at the moment, and his tenacious and aggressive and passionate style, just fans love it, and that's exactly what Vidic brought. You'd see him throwing his body in front of the ball no matter what, going into challenges so hard that it would make the crowd stand up and cheer. He's probably one of the only defenders that could do that, where he'd excite the crowd, and of course you needed your Rio Ferdinand next to him to complement him and kind of negate his weaknesses. But Vidic done that for Ferdinand as well. And a 2-time Premier League Player of the Season winner, Vidic was crucial to United's back 4 in those years. And of course, injuries played their part in the latter years of his United career, but I think everyone will remember the Serbian as one of United's greatest January signings ever. Whilst Evra would go on to play a fair few more games for United, 379 to be exact, he would also have a similar impact to Vidic in that he was one of few fullbacks at the time to be so comfortable in possession. I mean, he was basically a winger with the ball. He could go forward, he could get back, he had the technical ability to match. He was almost ahead of his time. 10 goals and 38 assists in his time with United. I mean, one of my favourite Champions League memories from when I was younger was that 40 to 50 seconds after he scored that incredible goal against Bayern Munich, before United let one slip at the other end. But he was just such an exciting player, and having Evra at left back alongside that front three of that era with Rooney and Ronaldo in there, I think he just added a little bit more to that United team with the kind of player that he was. And he'll definitely be remembered as one of the best United signings mid-season. And having those two come to the club together for such low fees in a mid-season market and succeed to the level that they did, you don't see that so often, and it probably hasn't happened to the level of success that that duo achieved. And that's the list. Those are the 6 players. 6 players that I think are 6 of the best that United have signed in January. Let me know if you think I've left anyone out, left any stinkers out. Please give me a shout in the comments below. Let me know what you thought of my list, and if you want to see anything specific in the coming months as we look to keep smashing the videos out. If you enjoyed this video, like the video, subscribe to the channel and keep an eye out. But for now, we'll see you in the next one.